Today's topic, what's the best IP to see by me? Welcome to TABLEscraps, short discussions about board, card, and tabletop gaming, submitted by the viewing audience and discussed with the viewing audience. Hey everybody, hi and welcome back to another episode of TABLEscraps, the live streaming show where we have a conversation about board games, card games, and tabletop games with the live streaming YouTube audience. I'm your host, Chaz Marler, but today is a special Labor Day recording session, so I am joined not only by the live streaming chat, but also the in-studio guests, the executive producers of Pair of Dice Paradise, my wifey, and little VeeBug. So say hi.
Hi.
Wow, you guys are on. You are spot on. So I actually let little VeeBug come up with today's topic. And here is the question of discussion that she came up with today. What are some films and TV shows that have been ported over well to board games and card games, and what are some that didn't go well? What makes a game based on a movie or TV show either succeed or fail? When it comes to games and such based on IPs, of course, there's been for years, there was a long history that the norm was if a game is based on a movie or TV show, it's going to stink like feet. And I think that several years ago, a company called Gale Force 9 came along. And Gale Force 9's first real big hit in this area, or arena, pardon the pun, was a board game based on the TV show Spartacus. It has no G in it. It's actually Spartacus. So it's Spartacus. It's Spartacus, and then they had, in no particular order, Sons of Anarchy, one based on Homeland, I believe. Of course, Star Trek Ascendancy, and several other games that are eluding me at the moment.
There is a Serenity or
Firefly. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Also Gale Force 9.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the other one.
That was the one that
That's one of their biggest hits.
Actually, we still need to play that one.
Oh yes. And they're actually some of the best games based on IPs that I've seen in a long time. Now, conversely, an IP out there, which I think is related directly to Little VeeBug's comment, and one that I am very surprised has not made a game that I think is a good IP, but is just begging for it, is the new My Little Pony series. My Little Pony, with its characters, its artwork, it's the storylines they've had.
It has had a board game. Actually, not a board game.
A card game? It's true, but that card game, the My Little Pony customizable card game, was not met with very good critical reception. Nobody really liked it very much. And you'd think that they could do so much more with the My Little Pony license than what they have. But let's go now to the YouTube chat and see what other people suggest in this and voice our own opinions on their suggestions. Patrick, who's just going to lay it out there for us, Star Wars makes every game better. Agree or disagree? Words, not shrugs. the microphone's not going to pick up the shrugs very well.
I disagree. Any kind of story, any kind of wrapper that you put on if it's you can't polish a turd. I mean.
Whoa. All right. VeeBug, are you, you're like, you're a 10-and-a-half-year-old kid. What would you rate how much you like Star Wars on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't like Star Wars.
You're not really a fan of Star Wars? Let's continue on to Toyota, who says, VeeBug, it's hard to find good games based on TV and movies because I think movies and TV shows are too linear and games are about choice. Ooh, what do you think of that?
I kind of agree. I mean, in order for a game to be good, you have to have good mechanics. You have to have good choices. You have to have, there's
so the players have to have choices available to make, and the mechanisms there to allow them to make those choices.
Yes, spin the choice.
Spin. You have to. People like to spin. People like choices. So you need to let them spin the choice. Absolutely. So I think that's really intriguing what Toyota said about storylines being too linear, perhaps.
I think the best IPs that would make great games are world build.
I was about to say, you really need to have an established universe.
Yeah.
A universe that can stand on its own.
That's one of the reasons Avatar: The Last Airbender would make, because of because of the way
the universe is.
Yeah, the way the world is.
That universe is strong enough. The world they created is strong enough to stand on its own without the main characters even being present in it.
Yes.
There you go. And Star Wars does that. The My Little Pony episode we watched was a weird one because it actually didn't have the 6 main characters. It was everyone else. I don't know why I keep talking about My Little Pony.
You keep bringing it up.
Florian joins us to say, sometimes you don't even know that you play something based on a TV or game or whatever IP. I guess many of the US viewers know the pickup and delivery Alf Ashti. I don't know how that is pronounced. I apologize for butchering that. It's actually based on a German TV series. That's a good point. So sometimes you don't even know that you're playing a game based on IP. That's true. I want to step back from that a minute. How often do you think that happens, though? I mean, because when a game is based on an IP, it seems like there's something about it that tries to make it a little obvious, it seems. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it's my own familiarity on those IPs makes me think that, but the games I'm not familiar with the IP, I don't realize it, so I don't even know. Just like Florian said.
The question I have is, can you take a game, just the mechanics and the way it plays, and just put any IP over it? That's actually that's to me is a little more interesting.
That's like the golden goose egg right there. So if you have a game that you can just re-theme, plugging in a popular theme without breaking the game.
Monopoly, I've seen. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I don't think you can. I don't think Monopoly themes well. I mean, it's still Monopoly, but like a game. I'm thinking of like if you could take Firefly, like we just mentioned, the Firefly game, because the Firefly game is very thematic. It feels like Firefly.
Yeah.
But if you could take that and switch that to, I'll just pick an IP off the top of my head, My Little Pony, and make it the same game mechanisms, but feel like you're in the My Little Pony universe, I don't think it would work for the Firefly game. But if you could, that would be like really special for the Firefly engine.
The example I was thinking was it's the Star Wars one where Vader tries to pull Luke to the dark side. Rebellion. I love that mechanic.
That's because you pulled it off.
I pulled it off.
I'm pulling another chat comment off the list here. That's what I'm pulling off here. And it's going to be from Trevin, who says, the problem with IPs is that it's usually trying to cash into popularity quickly before buzz dies, meaning they rush out clones of crappy games without trying. Exactly what I just said is, from a board game publisher standpoint, the golden goose egg to be able to do. I think, though, porting over a new theme onto an old game can help it sometimes. Take the Ghostbusters Protect the Barrier game. That's actually some treasure grabbing adventure seekers game or something. Okay. And, it's not a super strong game mechanically on its own. It's got some roll and move elements to it. It is neat, but it is kind of I would call it like a very basic version of Pandemic almost, because you got the Pandemic kind of stuff growing. Yeah. But when they rethemed it to Ghostbusters, that ignited my own imagination enough, and some other people I know, that it's like, oh, I am now willing to add this game to my collection, give it a try, because the mechanics are strong enough that with this theme, this IP I like applied to it, it's now both of those work together to make it strong enough for me to enjoy playing and want to play again. I've stunned you. I've stunned you with my wonderful argument.
I'm just trying to think of any IP-based games that I've played that have been like, this feels like that universe.
Well, stew on that. If you can come up with one, let me know. Meantime, I'm going to move on to the next comments here. Next is from Refresh Damon, who says, Battlestar Galactica did really well at adapting the show to a game. Oh, I'm glad you brought up Battlestar Galactica, because Battlestar Galactica was heralded as one of the best thematic experiences. But it's I don't know how old Battlestar Galactica is now. It's getting, in board game world, it's between 5 to 10 years, I think. But the reason I mention it is because I've started to hear something very strange about Battlestar Galactica. It's always been heralded as this wonderful accomplishment of theme and mechanisms and play. But people are starting to say it's a little long in the tooth and they're ready to move on. They're not enjoying it as much. Not necessarily that it's played out, but it's starting to show its age mechanically and stuff too. I'm wondering if IPs even have an expiration date. I'm wondering if the show being off the air has led to increasing that amount of feeling about the game. And if the game was rethemed with something else that's on TV still, if the game would be like revitalized. Or if a second edition that kept the same theme but streamlined some of the mechanisms would make it be revitalized. Do both of those have to work together?
An example I think that might work for you is the Legendary. The Legendary card game. I really want to play the Aliens version because I'm a big Aliens fan.
That's true.
But But I'm enjoying the when we play Legendary as well.
That's true, and that's one that, I mean, that's introduced a lot of different variations and themes and different IPs applied to it. So maybe that is an example of a case study for my Battlestar Galactica question. Because that's what I asked about Battlestar Galactica. Upper Deck is doing with Legendary, with all the different IPs they plug into it. And they sometimes they keep it the same, sometimes they introduce a mechanism.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about there. But in the meantime, let's continue on with Sasha, who says sometimes the IP does not matter. It could be a great IP or a horrible one. The game mechanics can make or break the game. Anyone want to play a ton of horrible XYZ Monopoly games? That's... What do you think about that?
Totally agree.
Totally agree. Any way that you could add some drama by finding something to disagree in that statement?
A collector. The Doctor Who IP. I have a friend who loves Doctor Who, and
We'll do anything Doctor Who.
yes.
So, but do you think a collector in this case, like say XYZ, is the collector going to play it?
They're not going to play. They're just going to have it.
Right. I think even with your dissension against Sasha, I think Sasha's comments. I'm pretty sure that you were yelling at Sasha there. So, drama. Kabuki joins us to say, when the theme is taken into account when making the game, that surely must help. Battlestar Galactica, Dune, Legendary Encounters Alien, War of the Ring, etc. show that it can work well sometimes.
Yeah, if somebody already really likes that IP, yes, I can see how that could get there. That's them already dipping their toe in the water. They know they like that flavor. But the thing is if it's a bad game underneath, are they going to just play it once and it's going to go to, second-hand store?
For a designer, do you think a designer will come up with as strong of a game based on an IP if they have an idea for a game and they build the mechanisms and then put the IP onto it, versus first being given the IP and developing a game around it?
I think it's definitely the IP and then building a game around it, because Babylon 5 was so good. When you write, when you write with an ending in mind.
Yeah, the Babylon 5 TV series was 5 seasons long, and before they started that series, they knew their entire story arc for the 5 seasons.
Exactly.
So they knew where they were going.
They know the story, they know the world, they know where they're trying to... what they're trying to...
So they created their universe, they created their theme, and then built in the mechanisms of making the plots for each episode go based in that world.
I'm not saying that it can't be done the other way. I'm just saying I think it's better when somebody loves that IP and does it that way.
Let's continue on here. Patrick joins us to say, oh yes, there's this little girl developed this My Little Scythe. It is the game Scythe rethemed by My Little Pony.
Really?
And apparently she did an amazingly good job with it. And it's supposed to be really good. And people are like, this is so cool. I think they've done some other themes. But yes, Scythe as My Little Pony, and apparently it worked really well. So anything's possible to pull off. That's a really good example. Very good example, Patrick, of what can be done applying a TV IP to a game. Kabuki says, then there are games that just retheme Monopoly or Risk or something, and it's usually just pasted on and doesn't make thematic sense. That's why I appreciate what Gale Force 9 has done so much, because they really seem like they have concentrated on these movie and TV IPs, but really tried to make each one a unique thematic experience. Risk, not so much.
Was it Risk that did the retheme for Doctor Who?
There's a Doctor Who Risk, yes. It added some Daleks.
Here have some Daleks.
That was the entirety of the rulebook. So, all right. Let's go to Accent Troll, who says, Firefly is a good game. It captures the feel of the show really well. I think that is really important when it comes to a game based on IP. It has to capture the feel really well. Yeah. Even if it's a good game and a fun game, but it's a fun game that doesn't capture the thematic feel, I think that can still do it. I've stunned you again. Because that just says, technically, Scythe is a licensed IP, also, let's not forget. But what I'd really like to see is a Nintendo Minis tabletop game using Amiibo. A-M-I-I-B-O. I am not familiar with Amiibo. I'm not sure what if the art came first, if the art world came first for Scythe, or Scythe came up and that art world has branched off into its own universe that artist is continuing. I'm not sure which is which, but I'm going to just err on the side of giving Gazentia the benefit of the doubt that you know your stuff better than I do. I honestly do not know. What I do know is Pith Addict's question is next, saying that most of the time I auto-skip an IP game unless I really like it. I can't wait to get my hands on Attack of Titan games. That's actually, that is something I think is a very valid point, is that their games based on IPs were so bad, so consistently, for so long, that a lot of people still to this day just automatically click off and are not interested in them. Let's wrap up this episode with a comment by Bill, who says, Firefly is a good example of an IP that has great and terrible games both based on it. It all comes down to the designer.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what IP you have. If you just, don't have a quality designer behind it, you're going to run into trouble. You have to have that spark, that passion behind the game's development to really pull it off. And speaking of pulling off things, we've pulled off another episode of TABLEscraps. So I want to thank everybody in the live streaming chat who's joined us and participated. Woohoo! Thank you all. It is the participation of the people watching that makes shows like this possible. So in case you didn't get your comment mentioned, though, or read or misread, apparently, as seems to be the norm in this episode, you are welcome to continue the conversation either in the YouTube comments below or over on the Pair of Dice Paradise Twitter or Facebook pages. And before we go, I want to remind everyone that episodes like this are made possible by viewers like you who have been supporting the Pair of Dice Paradise fundraiser campaigns. It does make a difference, and it is really appreciated, so thank you all for that. But until the next time we get together, I've been Chaz Marler, who, along with the live streaming YouTube chat and our special holiday edition in-studio special guests, apparently there's an evil specter is one of the guests as well. Well, we have been serving up some table scraps. So thanks, and I need to go and perform an exorcism, apparently. So we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon. A board game based on the TV show Spartacus, because it has no G in it. It's actually Spartacus. So it's Spartacus. It's based on that TV show, and it uses an arena, hence the pun.
Still dice in a bowl.
Oh! All right. We're taking the chat up a notch, I see. All right.